Good morning, everyone, or it could be afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Today, we're going to take a little drive down dealing with pet loss and grief. My week has been filled with calls about the loss of pets and dealing with the grief, and that, you know, kind of the mixed reviews. Some people, people are very supportive, and others say, "Oh, it's just a pet. It's just an animal." And so I'd like to kind of drive down this um, avenue that really deals with experiencing one of I think is one of the most challenging losses that we can have is that loss of our pets and that bond that we have with them, that they become cherished family members, and our bond with them can make that loss feel so much more profound and overwhelming. It's that unconditional love, and I think sometimes because they don't speak, they speak with their eyes and their feelings and their affections. But I think that we don't really grasp that comfort and their presence, even though they're not saying it in words. They're there with that comfort. And I remember uh, uh, a number of years ago, I lost my big tabby kit, and I, got him, and I was walking in a pet food store to get food, and this little paw reached out and grabbed my shirt, and it was just the look, and it was just like, nope, you're going home with me. And he was with me for 15 plus years, and he was the calmest, most wonderful pet. His presence was always there. He was just this like silent, wise old advisor, and I laugh, and when he was gone, I still miss him because that presence and that profound sense of recognizing that he was such a part of my everyday life, and I saw him so often. And when he'd come into my office, or if he would come when I was reading or doing work, or out on the porch, um, it was just that presence and that feeling. And he'd look, he was my chow hound too. He was a big guy. And is that understanding that the intensity of that grief can vary greatly and hugely over a period of time, and that it's okay to validate your feelings, and it's really wise, because you can allow yourself to have the feelings of anger and sad and guilt. I could have done more. Why didn't I recognize something sooner? And we all do the best we can at any time, but with our pets we feel a great sense of loss because they can't say to us, like you, like young little kids can't, when they can't communicate or with words and that. And recognizing that unique bond that humans have with animals, whether they're fur or fin or feather or hoof, that we develop a really deep, unique, and meaningful connection, relationships. And when I think about Kit, he taught me about patience. It's like when we would travel, when we would go to places, and he didn't like to travel up in the mountains. I, think it hurt his ears, so we got him little, like earmuffs to help equalize his pressure. And that how they enrich your life, and how they brought you joy. And in the midst of grief, we go through the same stages of grief with our furry family members as we do with the loss of a family member. And that there are steps to healing, and it's creating an environment that supports you, and surrounding yourself with people who really understand that pet loss and grief, and support you, and recognize that that there are people who actually specialize in pet loss and communications. And when that bond is severed physically, we feel that because we're so used to that presence. And we know when they're there, and when they're gone, we feel that loss. It's the energy of the house changes. The energy of our life is changed. And I always say, journal about your feelings. I love you, I'm so sad, I wish I could have done this. Whatever your feelings are, they're valid, they're normal. And journaling is a great way to get out those emotions, so it's just not always going on in your head. It's really there um, to help you get your feelings out, and talking to trusted friends, and finding those activities, not just sitting around, but finding some creative activities to do during this time can be very helpful as well. And that in this process, we our routine is disrupted. I remember I felt like I cried for 3 days straight when one of my cats, Alex, died. And Lan, my husband goes, I don't know if you're ever going to stop crying. He was such a part, and it was a deep bond. And allow yourself to cry or express your grief openly. Um, because by suppressing them or acknowledging them or avoiding and denying them, you just prolong that healing process. And let's face it, none of us like to feel that grief or pain longer than we need to. One of the ways that I found that helped me was I had like a ritual of remembrance, and like whether you hold a memorial service or you create like a photo album, or you gather his things around where you see them for a while with the pictures that you have. And um, it's or you can have a memorial garden and have like a little plaque with their name on it. There is very powerful, and to really give yourself that uh, presence to practice self-compassion, that be gentle with yourself. And every time it's like I could have done more. Well, that may or may not be true. You did the best you could at that time and everything you could. And that finding things that nourish you in mind, body, and spirits. And sometimes when we're grieving, we don't want to eat, we're not sleeping, and that's part of that process. But setting giving yourself some boundaries, and really setting that um, prioritizing your emotional well-being, because we have to go to work and we have to make our dinners. And if we're in relationships or for our kids, life still goes on. I mean, whether we're in grief or not, life still goes on. And so it's finding those moments. And and grief is going to hit, you never know when. It's like sometimes I'll look at my two tabby rescues that I have now, and sometimes I'll look at him, one of them turns around, and I could just feel it's like he reminds me so much of Kit or of my other cat, Elmon. And having gone through this process any number of times, um, it doesn't get easier, but you recognize the sign, and you do know that it will heal, it will get better, just not in the midst of it. And to reflect on what I would call the meaning that they gave you. Reflect on, like I feel Kit taught me like about patience. Lucky is about mischievousness and laughter, and Hastings is probably one of my most mellow guys that I've ever had. He's just sort of laid back and, just enjoys watching things, and just reflect on the acts of kindness and that you did for him. And maybe it's something that you want to continue for, like kindness donations to animal charities, or volunteering at a shelter. Or if you have want to get look at getting older pets that are trained, who lost loved ones and they know that. It's really wonderful. And I always look at that, I want to honor what my pet gave me, which whether it was their celebration of life and the joy that they brought me through my life and the laughter. And I can't help but think of all of my trips with Kit, when we would go traveling and we would take him to different places, and just sharing those fond memories with people. Or rather than focusing on their passing, focus on the joy that they gave you, and how they contributed. That when we would travel, or if I'd have to go do something, and that my husband and I and Kit, we would all travel together. And especially if it was a longer trip, I didn't want to put him with other people. So there were trips where I could take him with me. And it's like sharing those fond memories keep things alive. And I would, I designated a part of my office, because that's where he spent a lot of time, and in the bedroom. And I just, just you can have a plaque of honor. You can have just things that remind you. And as time goes by, then you're ready to move them to another place, or you can put them away. I always would take a little piece of their fur or their collar, um, and with their name and their dates and that. And one of the things that can be very helpful is like supporting causes in their name, you know, whether it's animal welfare groups or shelters, that will help improve the lives of other needy animals. I mean, that's a great way, and it's really good for self care. The other way that you can begin to do things is um, participating in fundraising events or volunteering, time to support initiatives, for, that raise the awareness of pets and, their pet rights and that, or fostering, new connections, you know, consider fostering if you don't want to get one right now, or, adopting a pet, later when you're ready, only when you're ready. And it's like, opening your heart to another animal can be a meaningful way, but it takes time. Sometimes we want to do it soon, other times we want to do it for a long time, it's other times, I don't ever want to have this pain again. And it's, share your compassion and what you do. And there's other needy animals that may need pet sitting or volunteering, or there's any number of ways to navigate this loss, and it's a powerful way to help you move through it, because it is very challenging, and it is heart wrenching. And navigating pet losses is about patience and compassion and that willingness to honor that deep bond, and to see it. And working in personal development and holistic healing, and that self-care, and really honoring that unconditional love and celebrating that profound contribution to your life, you can find like a solace and meaning, and those cherished memories endure forever. So I hope this will help you navigate a little bit better and easier. It's never easy, and loss is never fun, but it does get better with time. In the midst and the beginning of it, it feels like it won't end, but it does end. It does get better. So I hope this has been some help. So, like and comment on the podcast, share this with as many people as you can, because there's been at times that we've all lost pets or our friends, and anything that we can share to help another go through this period is always beneficial. So thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Activate Your Awesome, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much. Bye for now.